Welcome back to the Lore Drop Spot for another video recounting the Odyssey of Master Chief John 117. In our last video, we recounted John's journey from first contact with the Covenant through the fall of Reach. We left our chiseled olive hero as he boarded the Pillar of Autumn and slipspace jumped away from the mid-glass Reach. In today's video, we'll tell the story of John's heroic exploits on Installation 04, the first Halo ring encountered by the Master Chief, and the story that launched the greatest video game franchise known to man. Halo Combat Evolved. In the year of 2552, humanity teetered on the brink of extinction. For 27 years, the Human Covenant War had raged on. Many UNSC soldiers fighting today were born into a war-torn galaxy and had never even known peace. The Covenant, a ruthless alliance of alien species united by a fanatical religious fervor, had swept across human space like a divine plague. Colony after colony fell silent, entire worlds burned under plasma fire. Of the hundreds of human settlements that once dotted the galaxy, only a handful remained. But humanity had one secret advantage the Covenant hadn't accounted for: the Spartan program. Super soldiers forged from children, transformed into living weapons through brutal training and alien augmentation. Humanity's elite fighting force, despite suffering heavy casualties, the Spartans had allowed humanity to stave off extinction just long enough for John 117 to turn the tides. As the fortress world of Reach, humanity's last great stronghold, crumbled under Covenant assault, the starship the Pillar of Autumn fled into the darkness of space. You see, at this point it was undeniable. Humanity was losing the war. The planet Reach was the crown jewel of the UNSC. Its fall was a crushing blow, signaling that humanity was entirely incapable of stopping the full force of the Covenant fleet. One of the only ships to escape the collapse of Reach was the Pillar of Autumn, and in its cryo bay, the Master Chief slept in frozen suspension, unaware that his next awakening would change the course of the war forever. But the Autumn carried more than just refugees and soldiers. Hidden within its databanks lay coordinates that Dr. Halsey had entrusted to Cortana, ancient data gleaned from the Forerunner artifact, pointing towards humanity's only potential hope. The Chief awakened to chaos. Covenant boarding crafts had found the Autumn, their plasma weapons cutting through the hull plating like paper. Captain Jacob Keyes moved with grim efficiency, his weathered face betraying the sense of desperation they all felt. The ship's AI, Cortana, had already been transferred to the Chief's suit, allowing for seamless communication and enhanced battle intelligence. One of humanity's most advanced artificial intelligences now resided within the mind of its greatest warrior. Beyond its combat advantages, it was also crucial to ensure Cortana did not fall into the hands of the Covenant. UNSC AI contained all sorts of critical information, including the location of Earth, along with all of humanity's secrets. As escape pods jettisoned into the void, they glimpsed their destination: a massive ring-shaped structure hanging in space like a golden crown. Ancient beyond measure, beautiful beyond description, yet somehow wrong in ways that they could not yet comprehend. The Chief's pod tore through the atmosphere, joining the dozens of others in the rain of fire across the ring's surface. When he emerged from the wreckage of his pod, boots touching alien grass for the first time, he found himself in a weird paradise that defied physics. Land curved upward into a false sky, supported by technologies that made the human engineering look like children's toys. But paradise was under siege. The Covenant had followed them here, and now the two forces fought for control over something neither truly understood. But it was strange. The Covenant presence here was far smaller than the fleet that had assaulted Reach, almost as if the Covenant wasn't expecting to find humanity here. As the Master Chief moved through the ring's pristine forests and ancient structures, he gathered survivors and tried to strike back at their pursuers. He began to sense they'd stumbled onto something far more significant than just another world to fight over. This wasn't just another planet or even a weapon. This was a monument to powers that had vanished long before humanity had taken their first steps among the stars. During his exploration of the ringworld, the Master Chief found strange entrances that went deep within the structure. Underneath Halo's surface lay the Silent Cartographer, a vast map room that served as the ring's nerve center. As the Chief descended through layers of Forerunner architecture, each level revealed new wonders: energy bridges that materialized from nothing, corridors that hummed with power after millennia of silence, doors that opened at his approach as if recognizing something in his purpose. The Covenant were here too, drawn by the same mysteries, but they moved with religious reverence, treating every surface as sacred, every artifact as a holy relic. They called the ring's creators the Forerunners, their gods, the architects of salvation. In the Cartographer's central chamber, holographic displays painted the ring's secrets in light. Halo stretched 10,000 kilometers in diameter, its inner surface containing entire continents, oceans, and even ecosystems. But beneath the beauty lay purpose. Vast installations hidden across the ring, connected by an intricate network of energy conduits. Cortana's voice carried a new note of unease as she started processing the data. The ring wasn't just a habitat or even a fortress. It was a machine of unimaginable scope, designed for a purpose that remained tantalizingly obscure. The more they learned, the more questions arose. Where were the Forerunners now? What had happened to the builders of this impossible world and why? And why did the Covenant worship a civilization that had seemingly vanished without a trace? While the Chief and Cortana explored the inner workings of Halo, trying to uncover its secrets, a separate crisis was unfolding. Captain Keyes had been tracking weapon signatures to a swampy region where Covenant forces had established a perimeter around something they feared to approach. When the Chief arrived at the coordinates, he found only empty Covenant positions. Weapons abandoned, vehicles still running. The Chief moved through an eerily silent swamp until he found a mysterious facility at the center of their perimeter. In the fog-shrouded interior of a Forerunner containment facility, motion sensors detected movement. But the shapes that emerged from the shadows were wrong. A writhing mass of flesh and tentacles that had once been human marines. Combat forms that moved with predatory intelligence. Infection forms that leapt with desperate hunger. The Flood. For the first time in the war, the Master Chief faced an enemy he couldn't understand or strategize for. These creatures existed only to consume, to assimilate, and to spread. They turned friend into foe with a single touch, creating armies from their own victims. Unlike anything he'd ever faced, the creatures lurched at him from every direction with ravenous intent. As the Chief fought his way deeper into the facility, the true horror became clear. This wasn't an invasion, it was a prison break. The Forerunners hadn't vanished mysteriously, they had been consumed by this plague. These creatures had defied every natural law. The Paradise World was in fact a tomb, and humanity had just unwittingly broken the seal. In the chaos that followed the Flood's release, something unexpected happened. As the Master Chief fought to survive the infected swamp world that had once been a secure Forerunner facility, a strange machine emerged from the gloom. It hovered, humming softly, its single blue eye flickering with a light just too intelligent to ignore. The machine was ancient yet lively, its words clipped, formal, and disturbingly cheerful as it identified itself as 343 Guilty Spark, the monitor of Installation 04. It spoke of protocols, containment, and a great journey that could now resume with the Chief's arrival, referring to him as the Reclaimer. Before questions could be asked, the Chief was engulfed in a flash of white light. The monitor had teleported him across the ring to a place called the Library. The Library was no archive in the traditional sense. It was a fortress, a labyrinth built in concentric layers buried beneath Halo's surface. Its walls were etched in alien glyphs, its platforms suspended in impossible geometry. Here, the Forerunners had stored something far more dangerous than knowledge: the activation index, the key required to fire the ring, and the Flood knew it. Wave after wave of infected forms attacked as the Chief fought his way deeper into the ring's core. Through it all, the monitor floated calmly beside him, dispensing cryptic remarks about the Flood's virulent nature and the fragility of biological life. There was something wrong about how calmly he spoke of annihilation. The monitor didn't seem to mourn the dead, nor express fear, only function. Finally, at the heart of the library, the Chief secured the index. The monitor hummed with approval, stating that the protocol dictated that they access the control room immediately. After another teleportation flash, the Chief found himself in the control room's cold blue glow. He stood before Halo's command console, raising the index and preparing to insert it. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, Cortana's projection bursts into the room with a surge of static. Eyes wide with alarm, her voice razor sharp as she commanded him to stop in his tracks. The Chief froze. Cortana looked terrified, something he had never really seen from an AI companion before. She revealed the truth with desperate urgency. The monitor's lying to you. The ring wasn't a weapon to stop the Flood, it was a weapon to wipe out their food. The monitor hovered closer, his tone maddeningly sincere as he confirmed her assessment. More or less, he explained, technically the Flood would be contained. To starve them, they must remove all potential hosts, hence the installation's effect. Cortana's voice trembled as she revealed the full horror. It would kill everything, every sentient being within 25,000 light years. That was the containment protocol. The Chief stepped back from the console, staring into the monitor's single, unblinking eye, as he asked if the machine had known all along. Of course, the monitor replied. He was bound by protocol. The Chief was the Reclaimer, and he would do his duty. The truth had been revealed, and the cost of ignorance had nearly been irreversible. For the first time since stepping onto the ring, the Chief had no orders, only a choice. The weapon he was meant to fire was never for victory, it was for extinction. The Flood was terrifying, but this was genocide on a galactic scale. The Monitor hovered silently nearby, still expecting obedience from the Master Chief, still expecting activation of the ring. But the Chief's silence said it all. He would not be their pawn, and from this moment forward, the mission had changed. Destroy Halo. The Chief turned from the console, rifle low, mind racing, guilty spark hovering nearby. Still expectant, still certain his reclaimer would comply, but compliance was over. Without a word, the Chief opened fire. Bullets sparked harmlessly off the Monitor's shields as defense drones swarmed the chamber. The Chief rushed to make his exit the only way he knew how, through gunfire and determination. Down corridors lined with alien light, through waves of Sentinel constructs, he fought to escape. He was no longer navigating a ring world, he was navigating a lie, a weapon built on the bones of a dead civilization. If they could return to the Pillar of Autumn, they could use the ship's reactors to trigger a chain reaction and a fusion detonation potentially big enough to destroy the ring. Their purpose was clear: destroy the ring, stop the Monitor, and prevent extinction on a galactic scale. But there was one final obstacle. The Pillar of Autumn's self-destruct system, humanity's last failsafe, required the authorization of Captain Jacob Keyes, last seen leading a mission deep into a suspected Covenant weapons cache, where he'd vanished into the fog of the ring's swamp where the Flood had first emerged. John descended into that nightmare following Keyes' last known transmission to a derelict Covenant cruiser buried deep within the ring's swampy basin. The vessel was overgrown with Flood biomass, silent and strangely still. Something had driven even the Covenant to retreat. Inside, the air was thick with decay. The deeper they went, the less it resembled a ship and more like a hive. Mucus lined the walls, pulsing softly. Marines' helmets were strewn across the ground, split open, half digested. Then they found what remained of Captain Keyes. He was no longer a man. His body had been absorbed into a massive proto-grave mind, half sunken into a grotesque Flood growth that pulsed from the command terminal. His face, twisted and bloated, still vaguely human, still watching, still aware. The Chief approached slowly, almost reverently. There was nothing left to say. He reached forward and retrieved the neural implants from what had once been his commanding officer. The interface responded, a final act of service from a man who had once led with calm authority. For all their battles, all their sacrifices, this was how it ended for Keyes. Not with medals or memory, but as a fuel for a parasite that devoured identity as easily as flesh. Yet, even in death, Keyes had completed the mission. His neural interface held the access codes they needed. They would destroy the Autumn and therefore the ring. Once back upon the Autumn, the Chief raced through the corridors, past fallen Marines, through Flood-infested sections, around Covenant forces still trying to take the ship. Cortana worked desperately to prepare their escape, the ship groaning under assault from all sides. Its hull breached in a dozen places, life support failing deck by deck. Behind them, 343 Guilty Spark pursued with mechanical fury, finally understanding that his reclaimer intended to destroy rather than activate the installation. 100,000 years of patiently waiting had led to this betrayal. His voice, once artificially pleasant, now carried the cold rage of absolute purpose denied. After subduing Guilty Spark, Chief and Cortana activated the self-destruct sequence before rushing toward the vehicle bay. There, they secured a Warthog and raced towards the last Pelicans aboard the Pillar of Autumn for their escape. The reactor core erupted in nuclear fire just as the Chief's Warthog cleared the ship's hangar. The explosion tore through Halo's structure, cracking continents, boiling oceans, and sending massive chunks of the ring spinning into space. What had taken the Forerunners millennia to build was unmade in just seconds. As the Chief's longsword fighter drifted through the debris field, Cortana's voice carried exhaustion and wonder in equal measure. They had survived against impossible odds. With enemies on all sides and the weight of galactic extinction on their shoulders, they had found a third option. Halo was broken, the Flood, for now, were contained, and somewhere in the vast galaxy, humanity was still able to draw breath. In the silence of space, surrounded by shattered remains of the God weapon, the Master Chief floated between the stars. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. The Covenant would not forget this humiliation. The Flood, though contained, had shown themselves to the galaxy once more, and somewhere among the stars, other Halo installations waited in mechanical patience. But something had changed in the balance of the war. Humanity had proven that they could stand against forces beyond imagination, could make impossible choices and live with the consequences. They had walked among the works of gods and chosen their own paths. Chief had become more than just a soldier. He had become a symbol, proof that even in the darkest hour, when faced with choices between extinction and extinction, a third way could be found. Not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through the stubborn human refusal to accept that any situation was truly hopeless. What secrets lay buried on other rings? What vengeance would the Covenant unleash, and what price would be paid when the Flood returned? In our next video, we follow the Chief into the tangled ruins of a shattered alliance and a war that only grows darker. If you found this video interesting, consider subscribing to the Lore Drop Spot as we drop new videos like this every week. Leave a comment below what moment from combat evolved defined the Chief for you.